and welcome to episode 79. And thank you very much indeed. The podcast currently is still within the top 10 of the FeedSpot top 30 podcasts to listen to within plumbing and heating within the UK. And thank you very much indeed for you guys out there for listening. In this week's episode, we've got some listeners and viewers' questions that are going to be answered. We've got some discussions around sort of service plans and are they worth it? And I'm going to be going through what is a typical week look like for me as the business owner here at Gaslec. For all that and some more, stay tuned to the podcast. But first of all, here's my friend Sean to tell you a bit more. Are you a new person coming into plumbing and heating? Are you a homeowner that likes a bit of DIY? Or are you a business owner and wanting a bit more knowledge before you make some decisions on your plumbing and heating? Stay tuned to the podcast and hopefully we'll be able to help you out with some of your questions. And welcome back, guys, and thank you very much. I still don't have the auto queue up and running as yet. We've been so busy here at Gaslec with all the calls and the winter season proper starting. And now we're even still during the day, we've still got mid-teens, lower teens as a daytime temperature, but in the evenings it's certainly dropping down to single digits. And that residual heat that we have within the homes, within the brick walls and within the fabric of the building that's been heated up all summer has well and truly started to deplete. So we're starting to feel a lot colder. And now what we're on now, the 3rd of November, which is the recording this on the Monday, we're well and truly past Halloween and coming up for fireworks even on Wednesday. So we're well and truly, and the clocks have changed as well, which is always a big shock to the system there. So I want to go through some of the listeners' questions and viewers' questions that I've put out. So I'll put out on various social media posts, some of our likes and our followers, about some of the things that you'd like me to answer for you. So offered the plumbing apprentice sort of Facebook page. I had someone email in about what sort of tools to get for someone new coming into the industry. And I'd say whatever you do get a little bit of quality. Now there's lots of, get this, get that. And there's no point in spending an absolute fortune on stuff. But Rothenberg do make, and they're not paying me to say this, they do make a good set of pump pliers. So they do them in they do them in singulars, like the 3 different sizes. And also they do sell them as a little multi-pack. So obviously, we're in November, we're coming up into the Christmas time. So I would be asking friends and family if they could be buying you anything for the Christmas holidays, if you celebrate that, of course, as a family. Then I'll be asking, maybe create a little wish list, like those Amazon sort of party wedding things. I'm sure we could create one of those, and then people from the family can sort of just pick that off. That's probably a good idea. But Baco, whatever you want to pronounce it, do make some really good spanners. And they do one with a really narrow jaw as well for slipping in. But they're really, really good quality. And if you look after them, they'll look after you. But make sure you don't lose them. I mean, you mark them up. Get a Dremel and you can put your initials into it and scratch it in, because we've all got similar tools. And certainly here at Gaslec, if I go out with any of the guys, Dean, Dave or Dan on the 3Ds, if we go out and I've got my bag of tools and their bag of tools, you can almost certainly say that we're going to have some very, very similar tools. Maybe a twist of electrical tape, something along the lines that identifies your stuff. But, we love a bit of Weira here. So what I would say is that I would get as best qualities that you can get and look after them. Make sure you put them back in your tool bag. Make sure that you identify them. Oh, that fell on the floor. And make sure that you look after them and don't double up a set of pump pliers as a hammer and stuff like that. Use the tool as it was designed to be used, and they'll last for a very, very long time. You'll probably lose them before they break, let's put it this way. So spend a bit of money on your tools. Another question we've had coming in, which is about hot water when it comes out of like a combi boiler, is milky, and is it being contaminated? As we know, when we have a bit of cold water, it's relatively clear. Certainly down here in the south, we've got a very hard water area. So we have a lot of contaminants within the water as it comes through, which is perfectly harmless because it is naturally coming up and rising through. So with these contaminants, when we get them up and we start heating them up inside the water, the carbon dioxide actually separates as we heating them up as they come through. And just remember, when, unlike a kettle, the water coming into your house is under pressure and is quite cold, and the air inside is being compressed and being held within the water. As soon as we then bring it up and through a boiler, it's still under pressure. And then we start heating it up through the plate heat exchanger on like a combination boiler. And then as it then passes through, it comes out and it gets to the tap, then all the pressure is released. And then we start looking at the water, and it can seem a bit milky, a little bit on the cloudy side. And that's millions and millions, zillions and billions. I've not tried to count them myself, of tiny little CO2, like air bubbles as such, completely harmless. It looks worse than it actually is. It's completely fine. But these tiny little bubbles will then all come together and give it that cloudy look. So if you're doing the washing up or you're running a bath without any bubble baths in there from a combi boiler, that's what you can see. Because when you're boiling up a kettle and you can see the water and it's under no pressure at all, it doesn't go cloudy if you've noticed. It'll stay clear, but just lots of bubbles because it's not under that pressure. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Can you get CO from a radiator that's producing heat? So carbon, it might seem like a bit of a silly question, but if you don't know the answer, you don't know. You can only get carbon monoxide, CO, if you're burning some sort of fossil fuel. So if you're burning a gas, methane, if you're burning hydrogen, you're burning liquid gas, LPG. If you're burning a solid fuel, you're burning a coal, you're burning a wood, that can produce carbon monoxide. And that's what we've got to be careful of. Radiators that are being heated by water that are then radiating the heat out from the convectors and the fins within the radiator, that all they're doing is just transferring the heat. They're losing the heat through the surface area of the radiator from the water pipe coming in to the water pipe coming out. So you've got no worries at all about that. We've had another question about gurgling radiators. Now we're starting to come into that winter period, as I said earlier on, and people are turning their heating systems on. And a lot of people this time of year, they sort of hold on to the last minute if they can. And what we find is that people are turning them on, they're going, oh, it's starting to gurgle. They've not had it on all summer. And all summer long, I've been saying on the podcast and on my social media pages that it's really, really, really important that you turn on your heating probably once a week, once a fortnight, once a month, and just get it circulating around. Not too hot, but just get the pump moving, get the water moving, keep the valves moving on your radiators. So we're starting to see a lot of calls that are coming in, certainly here at Gaslec, for things like that. So gurgling of radiators. Now, if you've got some old dirty water and it's sitting in your heating system and it's just sitting there and it's not been moved around, you haven't had the pump on for the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, where you've been sort of had the heating off and only using the hot water or whatever you're doing for hot water. As it starts to move around, the hydrogen in the water starts breaking down, it starts producing the gas. Hydrogen gas / air, so if it's not a liquid, not a water, then it's a gas. So you start getting these gases that come out of the water and they'll then move across and move along into a radiator. So you might get these gurgling noises that are coming through. So water on its own flowing through a pipe actually doesn't make a lot of noise. You might hear a bit of a rushing noise, a bit of a whooshing, but you won't be hearing all the gurgling all the time. So that'll make its way to either, if you've got a tank in the loft, it'll make its way to the H and then go up the vent or up the fill and it'll gurgle up into there, or it'll make its way to a radiator and then find its way up and then it'll sit across the top of the radiator. If you've got an auto air vent within inside the boiler, it might self vent inside there. So it's really, really important, certainly this time of year. If you're going to bleed your radiators right at the beginning of your heating system is the best time to do it. But before you do that, make sure if you've got a sealed system, you know how to top the system up. Having a system working, if you don't know how to top it up, that's a bit inefficient because some of the radiators have got cold tops. And if you've got like a combination boiler where your heating and hot water is dependent on pressure, make sure you know how to top it up first. We've had some people call in here at Gaslec where they've bled the radiators off, but they don't know how to fill the system up, and now they've got nothing. So wise word to the wise there, make sure you know how to fill it up first and then bleed the radiator. We did have a call last week here at Gaslec. A lady had too much pressure into the heating system. And so what we'd normally do is the simple way homeowners can do it is bleed the radiator, and you turn the little, with the key, you turn the little valve on the end and you just catch it into a teacup. And we do it all the time. I had it a couple of days ago, last Friday, actually, this is Monday. So last Friday, we had a bit too much water in a heating system, cracked the valve off, put my little bucket underneath and just caught it, come out nice and slowly, turned it off, it's only a little system, and then put it down the sink and off we went. What actually happened to the lady was, as she undone it, the actual valve on the radiator, by the look of it, was actually loose. So as she turned the radiator key, the valve key, the whole thing spun. And whatever happened, it wasn't noticed, was thought it was normal, whatever it was, she carried on turning it. And it's not many turns of thread, probably only 3 turns on a radiator valve, you know, the end caps where the valve sits in, before it'll pop out. And that's what happened. It come out, and I saw the pictures, the water all over the floor. So just be mindful. If it doesn't look like you're just undoing it and starting to bleed, as soon as you crack that little bleed nipple off, it'll start to weep almost straight away. They're only finger tight, so only gentle. You don't have to get a set of pliers on it because you will snap them off otherwise. So it's just nip them off, nip them up, done, and then just dry it off with a bit of tissue and then check it to make sure that it's not leaking. So yeah, it's really important you know how to top your system up before you start bleeding your radiators. But you will gain system efficiencies making sure that your radiators are bled, certainly at the beginning of the winter season. Now, another question we've had come in from one of our listener viewers is boilers losing pressure. Now, I've gone through this before on other podcasts, but I'll go through it again. So where we've got pressure gauge on a boiler, whether it's on the boiler or up on an airing cupboard, on a filling loop, wherever it be, we've got a pressure gauge. Now, we can't compress liquid, so it's not telling us what the pressure of the liquid is because we can't compress it. It's actually telling us what pressure it is at an expansion vessel. Now, an expansion vessel basically is a ball or there's an oval, whatever it be, but it's a space full of air, and it has like a rubber diaphragm. And as the water heats, and our water will heat and expand 4% at boiling point, and that's generally what water does by those sort of figures. Now, we don't really get central heating systems up to a boiling point. If we're just using a modern day boiler, let's just say maybe 75 degrees at the maximum, maybe 80 on a flow temperature. So it's still quite high, but that's where, and then what all depends on the system volume of water and the temperature. It will then expand and then it will contract again. So what we're looking generally across the board with most modern boilers, apart from our Ferolis and some early Alphas as well, where they're a bit higher in pressure, we're looking for 1 bar of system pressure at cold. And then all depends on how big the system is. If you've got an average size house, an average size system, then it may raise up to 1.5, 1 3/4 bar when it's nice and hot, and then it'll drop back down, which is absolutely fine in its operation. If you've got a bigger house, a bigger installation, bigger pipe work, the old school radiators have a lot of water volume in those, not very efficient at transferring the heat out because of the surface area, but they have a lot of water volume. You might see that creeping up a bit higher. And by design, we've done it here at Gaslec where the internal expansion hasn't been big enough on calculation. So we've put another one externally in somewhere else. So that just gives us more. And you can never overdo expansion on a heating system. So when we're losing pressure, we've got a couple of ways. So the most common place that we first start looking, us heating engineers, not just here at Gaslec, is that we start looking at the expansion vessel. So if it's a combination boiler and it's inside the boiler, we take some pressure out of the heating system and then we check, see what the pressure is of the expansion. And then we pump that up if necessary. Then we go outside and we see if the pressure release valve has been dripping. So we can either take the nut off underneath the boiler or go outside where the termination is. And if it's a dry day, we can then just poke your finger in and see if there's any water on it. So after we've done the easy stuff, we've checked the expansion, we've checked the PRV, and let's just say all that's great. Now water is then going somewhere, it's not going nowhere. So then we'll start checking the system. We're checking the radiator valves, see if any of the air valves are loose, checking any of the radiator valves are weeping around there, and you'll start seeing those crusty bits on there. So that's, I always say, do the easy stuff first. Pick the lowest hanging fruit before you climb top of the tree to get that lonely apple right on the top branch. So always do that easy stuff first. And that's a really straightforward thing that most of us can actually do. And then work our way round. Obviously, I'm talking about heating professionals here. Work our way round, and then do we then have a problem with either the plate-to-plate heat exchanger, which I had my first one the other week, which is gone, and the water was disappearing that way. Sorry, the plate-to-plate heat exchanger. Completely different story, so ignore that last one, sorry. Is there a hole in the primary heat exchanger and it's leaking into the condense trap and disappearing? We've had a few of those over the years. Or is it a leak on the pipework underneath the house, underneath the floor, which really does take some specialist kit to find. That little job earlier on was actually the other way, where the pressure was continuously rising on the heat, on the plate to plate. So the boiler pressure was just going up and up and up. No matter what we did, we couldn't stop it from rising. And there was a hole in the plate. It was my first one the other week. So apologies there for getting mixed up mid conversation. It's not scripted. I just rattle on sometimes. So we had another question coming in from somebody that's just into the heating and plumbing industry, and they asked me about how I go about troubleshooting boiler problems. So boiler problems or heating system, whole system problems. So you might get a customer, they say to us, my heating doesn't work. Oh, okay, so what do? Do you just turn it on, or show me how you turn it on? So I always ask that question. Show me how you turn your heating on, because there may be a weird switch and a click and a twist and a dial and that little thing under the cupboard that they'll always use because it was left behind and it was never unwired properly. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. If the customer knows how to use it and it works and it's fairly good and efficient, let them crack on with it, in my opinion. So get them to show you what's going on. And then we start going, right, okay, is it a boiler issue or is it a system issue? Is it external pump, 3-port, radiators? Is it to do with that? So I then go through a bit of a process of elimination of trying to work out if it's a boiler or if it's a system thing. So if we use like a combination boiler for an example, so we had one the other week. So I'll run you through this scenario. So it turns up and it was pour hot water. So they turned the boiler on and pour hot water. So the first call we went out and done, we actually had a seized pump. So the pump, you put the screwdriver into there. It was an older Worcester boiler and it had the bleed. So you took that out and it had like an Allen key and it wouldn't turn, so it was completely seized. So we got that done, but what actually happened was there was the pump was seized, which caused some electrical issue, which then damaged the board. So we had to then change the board, and the customer bought one actually second hand, and I went and fitted it for them because we won't fit second hand bits of kit. If the customer wants to buy that, it's up to them. They take the warranty, they take the risk with it. But I'll just put it in for them on a Sunday evening just to get them up and running again. We've done all that, turned the hot water on, turned the heating on, worked a treat. And then I left. It was a Sunday night. I was on my way home from holiday actually at the time. A couple of days later, the boiler's getting hot and the hot water's sort of fluctuating left, right and centre. So he goes out there and talking with the client, it's like, what's going on here? Where's the heat going? Is the heat coming out the hot pipe. It was then coming down it was actually coming down the heat and flow pipe. So we start thinking, is that a diverter? We've got a new pump on it. Is that a diverter issue or a plate issue? And then I turned the valve off, the flow valve, to the boiler. So the heat couldn't actually come down that pipe. And you see the boiler getting up to 102, 103, 104 degrees before shutting the heat exchanger. And it's knocking and bashing and crashing. And I was like, that's a blocked plate heat exchanger. And so what actually happened is we went back and we got a plate and we changed it over, and there was flakes of black rubbish in there. And it looked like cornflakes. They were that big and that sort of it would actually block the whole plate, and that was what damaged the pump and then seized the pump solid, and then that went through those bits, and it was all down to poor servicing. So his magnetic filter caught as much as it could. But like any magnet, you've got a magnet with a load of 2Ps on it. It can only go so far, and the magnetic pull doesn't work too many 2Ps down the little snake, if you've ever played that little game. And it's exactly the same for your magnetic filter. So really keep on top of your servicing, really keep on top of your water quality and your magnetic filter. Make sure it's nice and clean. And that went through, and that's been a really, really expensive journey. If the guy would have kept on top of the yearly servicing, it would have actually been a lot less than all the boiler repairs that's actually happened to his system. So it's just breaking it down. What's this happening? What's that? And that's just the way I go around. When we start getting error codes on boilers, take these as a bit of an idea, a bit of an angle, bit of a signpost, really. So we've been dealing with a Valent, and it's got F29 on this heat-only boiler. Now, F29 is flame failure during when the cycle, the heat cycle, is being demanded. Now that could be it's not been able to flue properly, so basically it's extinguished itself and not been able to light out, like a block condense pipe, like a block condense trap. It could be that the flame detection electrode is dropping out mid operation when it's calling for heat and it's going, and then that will then drop it out. Do we have a wiring issue, an electrical connection issue, which is dropping out mid-operation? So it's really trying to break down the different parts. Is there a loose wire? Give it a little wiggle, give it a jiggle, while it's in operation, if it's safe to do so. Then also we did have an F28, which is a multiple attempts to start the boiler, and it has failed. We had that as well on the same boiler. So we took care of the F28 issue, and now we're trying to deal with the F29. And what you would start to do, you change the PCB, you change the electrodes, you change the cabling, change the wiring harness, you change the condense trap, then you change the gas valve. What have you got left? You've got the heat exchanger on the case, and that's all, and the flue. That's all you got left after that, really. So it's trying to break it down logically, and you look at the code as a bit of a guide, and then try build the picture up from it from there, and experience will then carry you through on that there. So the last thing I want to go through with a day in a life or a day in a week of what actually I get up to here at Gaslec. And this is probably very, very common for other heating engineers out there and business owners, certainly of a similar size to us here at Gaslec. So what do we sort of typically do? So on Monday morning, my days start during the week around 4 to 5 a.m. And then I'll get up and I'll then go through some of the emails, some of the stuff that may have come in the early hours of the morning, maybe some reactionary call outs that we can come back to the clients with. Go through a few social media posts and see what's going on, and then I'll then go through the diaries of the whole team, and I'll check my diary, I'll check the other guys' diaries, and then we'll go through that. I like to do a daily message to everybody before they start work. So when they start, we can have a bit of a greeting for everybody. And then on WhatsApp, sort of just tag the people in. We have a lot of really faithful and loyal customers here at Gaslec that have been on a journey from when I was a one-man band. If one of the team members are going to their property, I say, oh, say hello to the dog for us, or the cat, or the fish, or whatever it'll be, and wish them well. And last time when they was on holiday, hope this one went better, and all those sort of little tiny chitty chat things. So I'll go through all the messages, I'll go through all the jobs, sorry, and then I'll message each of the guys separately, and I'll sort of highlight them on WhatsApp. When it comes to then the team members in the office, Kelly and Ann's, I then, can we get onto this? Can we reply to this customer here? We need to order these materials, or has this turned up yet for that big job that's happening in a couple of days? And then I'll then go out and do what I need to do, whether it be reactive, doing some work, or proactive, helping the guys out, or dealing with some high-level tasks and some problems. I then get back to the office maybe sort of 4 or 5 o'clock, hopefully to see the last of the team members get finished up for the day. And then that's then when my admin starts, doing the payroll, doing the paying the suppliers, making sure we're going through any new bits of kit we might need. I've seen around that might be a great idea. Going through the store, sorting out any deliveries that have come in. Certainly if it's little tools and knickknacks for the guys, label them up on the shelf downstairs in the store, getting those away for them. Coming up with some ideas of some community and charity giveaways, and come up with some ideas for that. Doing the podcast as well, getting that planned out, and the giveaways for that as well as. And then that's your Monday to Friday. So I'll probably get home and finish up maybe around 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. On a Saturday, we don't tend to work weekends as a business. There'll always be something to do around organising something, doing some emails, doing some designing of some new social media posts. And stuff along those sort of lines. And then we have the podcast recording, and getting some onto the social media channels, and getting some questions being brought into us from our community that we can answer here for them. And then think about different business ideas on different approaches to how we do things. And certainly things like our service plans that we offer to our customers. Now, our service plans, I think, are actually a great idea. It gives people a peace of mind. And, from as little as £8 a month, we can then cover the servicing on your boiler. So you could spread that cost. At the moment, we're charging 99 quid, including the VAT. So that helps spread the cost of that over to one monthly fee rather than the hit at the end. We do 2 other ones, which is then a boiler and system, where we cover all the boiler repairs into that. And if the boiler is under warranty, we'll then do a system. So we do the boiler's under warranty, we do the service on that, and then do the radiator package. Or our top package is we cover all the warranty repairs inside the boiler and on the heating system. Obviously, there's terms and conditions that apply, but for that really does give people peace of mind, knowing that they give us a call and we'll be there. Any problems, we'll take care of it on the radiators or on the valves or onto any part of the system. And obviously, we do prioritise all existing clients, and especially our service plan customers, before any new customers, certainly this time of year. So that's really sort of what I get up to, and that includes on a Sunday as well. There'll be a bit of vehicle washing, maybe organising an MOT, servicing, tyres, all that sort of stuff that goes on. And that's during the summer. And then best part, double that again for the winter period that we're in. So it really is non-stop. And if you're in a similar spot to me where you're trying to do everything, I have a fantastic PA Anne, and she's in the office and she's my right hand person when it comes to dealing with stuff for us. And there'll be plenty of stuff I go, Anne, take care of it, not interested. It's something I don't want to put in my mind to even think about, and you just take care of it, and that'll be absolutely amazing. But it really is important that if you are growing a business, and I listen to a lot of business podcasts, is that getting yourself a really good, reliable assistant, PA, office manager, whatever you want to give them the title of, or whatever they want to call themselves, that's absolutely fine. And these people here that join us really, really do help. And genuinely, from Jojo, the very first one I have, had to Anne that we have now, I couldn't ever have got to where I am here by dealing with all of that admin and growing the business. You really got to put your trust in other people. And most people are good people. You get a few bad apples out there, but most people do good and do the right thing. So please don't be afraid if you want to do that and grow your business. Okay, guys, well, that completes the episode 79 of the podcast. So thank you very much indeed for listening. Thank you very much indeed for watching if you're on Spotify or onto YouTube. If you need any gas, plumbing, heating, domestic and commercial within the South, give us a call here at gaslec.net is our website. Have a fantastic week. All the best. Take care. Goodbye.